I found out my mother was dead from a Facebook post. Not a phone call, not a text, not even a voicemail from a blocked number I could pretend to have missed. A Facebook post shared by my Aunt Linda, the one who used to sneak me butterscotch candies at Christmas when nobody was looking. The one who smiled at me at every family dinner like she actually meant it. The post had a photo. Mom at 72, sitting in that old wicker chair on the back porch, the one she refused to throw away even after the left leg cracked and she had to stuff a folded grocery bag under it to keep it from wobbling. She's smiling in the photo. Her silver hair is pinned back the way she always wore it on Sundays. She looks peaceful. She looks like herself. The caption said, "Rest easy, sweet dolors. Heaven gained an angel on Tuesday." Tuesday. I read that word 3 times, then I read it again. It was Friday afternoon. I was sitting in my car outside a gas station in Columbus, Ohio, eating a gas station sandwich because I'd skipped lunch and had a 4-hour drive still ahead of me. I had hot sauce on my fingers. My phone was propped against the steering wheel, and the world just tilted. Tuesday. She had died on Tuesday, and it was now Friday, and I had not received a single call. Not from my brother Derek, not from my sister Pamela. Not from my Aunt Linda, who had apparently found time to write a Facebook caption but not to dial my number. Not from my Uncle Ron. Not from any of the 12 cousins whose numbers I still have saved in my phone under names like Ron's daughter, Michelle. And Derek's friend Chris, not family but acts like it. Not one call, not one text, not one notification of any kind. I sat in that car for a long time. The sandwich went stale in my hand. A truck pulled up next to me and idled so loud I could feel it in my chest, and I just sat there, completely still, staring at a photo of my dead mother on a social media platform designed to sell me sneakers and remind me of memories from 11 years ago. I didn't cry right away. I want to be honest about that. The tears came eventually, later, much later, in a motel bathroom somewhere off the interstate with the fan running so loud I couldn't hear myself fall apart. But in that car, in that gas station parking lot, I didn't cry. I felt something colder than grief. I felt erased. Because here is what you need to understand before I tell you the rest of this story. I am the oldest. I am the firstborn child of Dolors Me Whitfield. I came first. I was there at the beginning, before Derek, before Pamela, before the fights and the silence and the years of distance that my family built around me like a wall and then pretended wasn't there. I was the one who used to braid Mom's hair when her arthritis got bad. I was the one who drove 4 hours every Thanksgiving until 4 years ago when the invitations just quietly stopped coming. I was the one who sent birthday cards every year, every single year, even when I didn't get one back. And they forgot to tell me she died. Or, and this is the part that would keep me up for weeks, they didn't forget at all. Hey, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Nora, and this channel is where I come to tell the truth about things that were too big to carry alone. I want to say up front, this story is real. Every part of it happened. I've changed some names because some of these people are still in my life in complicated ways, and some of them are not in my life at all anymore, and both of those facts will make sense by the time we get to the end. I also want to say this. I debated for a long time whether to share this. It's not the kind of story that makes you feel good about people. It's not the kind of story where everyone learns their lesson and hugs it out at the end. Real life doesn't always work like that. Sometimes the ending is just clarity. Sometimes the ending is just finally understanding what was always true and deciding what you're going to do with that knowledge. That's what this story gave me. Clarity. But it also gave me something I never saw coming. Something that happened in a lawyer's office 6 days after I found out my mother was gone that changed everything for me and for the people who thought they had already decided how this story would end. So if you're ready, get comfortable. This one is long. This one is heavy. But I promise you, it's worth it. And if you've ever felt invisible inside your own family, I think some part of this is going to feel very familiar to you. Let's get into it. To understand what happened, you have to understand my family. And to understand my family, you have to understand my mother. Dolors Me Whitfield was not a simple woman. She was warm, and she was difficult, and she was funny, and she was stubborn, sometimes all 4 of those things in the same afternoon. She grew up poor in rural Tennessee, one of 7 kids, and she carried that poverty the way people do when they've survived it, not as a wound exactly, but as a kind of permanent readiness, a low hum of preparedness for things to go wrong. She married my father, Gerald, when she was 21. He was 25 and charming and unreliable, a combination that is devastatingly attractive when you're young and doesn't reveal its full cost until much later. I was born a year into the marriage. Derek came 3 years after me. Pamela came 2 years after Derek. By the time Pamela was in kindergarten, my father was mostly gone, not officially, not with paperwork, just absent in the way some men are absent, there for holidays and then not there, promising and then not delivering, calling and then not calling. My mother raised us. Completely, stubbornly, without complaint, and without asking for help from anyone who might use it against her later. I was the oldest, which meant I was also the smallest adult in the house from a very young age. I learned to read the temperature of my mother's moods the way weather forecasters read clouds. I knew when to be quiet and when to be useful and when to make her laugh because laughing was the only thing that reliably broke the tension. I was good at all of those things. I was very, very good at being what she needed. Derek and I were close when we were young. He was a soft kid, sensitive, easily embarrassed, the kind of boy who cried at movies and then got angry at himself for crying. I loved that about him. We used to build elaborate forts in the living room with every blanket in the house, and Mom would pretend to be annoyed about it while secretly leaving us snacks near the entrance. Those are the memories I go back to when I try to remember who we were before everything got complicated. Pamela was different from both of us. She came into the world loud and certain of herself in a way that neither Derek nor I ever were, and she never really outgrew it. She was Mom's favorite, and I say that not with bitterness, exactly, but with the matter-of-fact acceptance of someone who figured it out early and made peace with it. Pamela looked like my mother, laughed like her, had her same sharp tongue and her same inability to admit when she was wrong. Mom saw herself in Pamela, and people always love what reminds them of themselves. I left home at 18 for college. This was the first fracture, though I didn't know it then. My mother supported my going to school. She was proud, genuinely proud, and she told everyone in her life that her eldest was going to be the first in the family to get a degree. But there's a particular kind of mother who supports your independence in theory and quietly punishes you for it in practice. I don't think she did it consciously. I don't think she sat down and decided, Nora left, so now Nora pays. But the further I moved from home, first to Columbus for school, then to Cincinnati for work, then to Cleveland for my life, the more I became a guest in the family rather than a member of it. Derek stayed local. Got a job at a distribution warehouse 20 minutes from Mom's house. Married a woman named Terry and had 2 kids and settled into the comfortable, familiar geography of the life he'd always known. He was there for Sunday dinners. He was there for car trouble. He was the one who helped Mom install her new washer and dryer and the one who drove her to doctor's appointments when her hip started giving her trouble. I sent money. I called on Sundays. I drove down for holidays until the holidays started to feel less like celebrations and more like tests I was always failing without knowing the rules. The real break, the one that started the 4-year silence, came at Thanksgiving in 2020. I know, that year. Everything fell apart that year for everyone, and maybe it would have fallen apart for us eventually regardless, but that was the year it actually happened. I'd driven down. 4 hours. I'd brought food, good food, because I'd taken a cooking class and I was genuinely excited to contribute something. I walked in and Pamela was already there with her husband Marcus and their kids, and Derek was there with Terry, and for about 45 minutes it felt almost normal. Then Pamela made a comment. A small one, the kind she'd been making my whole life, something about how I didn't really understand what it was like to be there for Mom, to be the one who actually showed up, because of course I wouldn't know since I was always so far away. She said it lightly, the way she said everything that was meant to land heavy. She said it in front of everyone, and I said something back. I don't even remember exactly what it was. Something honest. Something that was true and that I had been not saying for approximately 35 years, and I said it out loud in my mother's kitchen on Thanksgiving with the green bean casserole still in the oven. My mother looked at me with an expression I had never seen from her before. Not anger exactly. Disappointment, maybe. Or something worse, recognition. Like she had been waiting for me to finally say the wrong thing so she could feel justified in something she'd already decided. After dinner, she asked me to come to her room. She told me quietly that she thought it would be better if I gave the family some space for a while, that tensions were high, that maybe I needed to think about how I talked to people. She wasn't yelling. She wasn't cruel. She was calm and certain, the way she always was when she'd made up her mind about something. I drove home that night, 4 hours, alone. I called the following Sunday. She didn't answer. I called the Sunday after that. She answered that time, and we talked for 12 minutes about nothing, the weather, her neighbor's new dog, something she'd seen on TV. And then she said she had to go, and she went. The Sunday calls faded. The holiday invitations stopped coming. I kept sending birthday cards. I kept sending money when I had it. I told myself it was temporary, that families go through rough patches, that she'd come around. She died on a Tuesday in March, and I found out on a Friday on Facebook. And the only question I've asked myself every single day since then is the one I still don't have a clean answer to. Did she know, before she died, that they weren't going to tell me? I called Derek first. I sat in that gas station parking lot, wiped the hot sauce off my fingers with a napkin that disintegrated immediately because gas station napkins are held together by optimism, and I called my brother. He answered on the third ring. "Hey," he said. His voice was careful. That single word, "hey," told me everything. There was no surprise in it. No, "Oh my God, Nora, I've been trying to reach you." Just "hey," flat and braced, like a man who has been waiting for a call he knew was coming. "Derek," I said, "Mom died." Silence. "I know," he said. "Tuesday," I said. "Yeah, it's Friday." He didn't say anything. "Why didn't anyone call me?" I asked. I kept my voice very steady. I have always been good at keeping my voice steady when every other part of me is falling apart. It's the same skill that got me through every performance review, every breakup, every moment when falling apart was not an option. He exhaled. Long and slow, the way you exhale when you've rehearsed something and you're trying to remember how it was supposed to go. "Nora," he said, it's been really hard. And with everything that happened, Pamela thought, I repeated. She thought it might be better if, Pamela thought it might be better, I said again, if you didn't tell me our mother died. Another silence, longer this time. "It's more complicated than that," he said. "Is the funeral already done?" He paused just a half second too long. "Yes." That was the moment. That was the moment I felt something inside me go very, very quiet, the kind of quiet that isn't peace. That's the opposite of peace. That's what happens when the noise you've been making trying to hold everything together just stops, because there's nothing left to hold. They had buried my mother without me. The funeral had happened. The burial had happened. The prayers and the flowers and the neighbors in dark clothes and the casserole dishes and the folded programs with her photo on the front, all of it had happened, and I had not been there, and it was not an accident. "Where?" I asked. "Where what?" "Where is she buried?" He told me. The same cemetery where her parents were buried, the one I'd been to twice in my life, once for each of her parents. At least they'd done that right. At least she was where she'd always said she wanted to be. "Is there a reading of the will?" I asked. The silence this time was different. It had texture. It had weight. "There's an attorney," he said. "She had a will, yeah, there's a meeting Monday. Were you going to tell me about that?" He didn't answer. "Derek." My voice cracked on his name just slightly, just enough that it wasn't steady anymore. "Were you going to tell me about that?" "Pamela has been handling everything," he said quietly. I wasn't the one making the calls, Nora. I wasn't the one who decided anything. You just went along with it." He didn't deny it. I asked him for the attorney's name and number. He gave it to me without argument, which told me that some part of him, the soft kid who cried at movies, the boy who built blanket forts, knew that what had been done was wrong, even if he hadn't been strong enough to stop it. We hung up without saying goodbye. Not angrily. Just, there was nothing left to say that could fit inside a phone call. I sat for another few minutes in that parking lot. The truck that had been idling next to me was gone. The sun was getting lower, and the sky had turned that particular shade of orange that looks beautiful and sad at the same time, the kind of sky that in movies always means something is about to change. I opened Google Maps and typed in the name of the cemetery Derek had given me. 3 hours and 47 minutes from my current location. I turned the car around. I drove to where my mother was buried, and I stood at her grave in the dark with no flowers and no program and no one else around, just me and the sound of the wind moving through the cemetery trees, and I talked to her the way I had not let myself talk to her in 4 years. I don't know if she heard me. I don't know if I believe in that, but I said everything I'd needed to say, and then I got back in the car, and I drove to the nearest motel, and I booked a room for the weekend. Because I was going to be at that attorney's office on Monday, whether they expected me or not. The motel was the kind of place that had a vending machine with a broken light and a TV that got 4 channels clearly and 11 channels as static Y ghosts of themselves. I lay on top of the covers and stared at the ceiling and did not sleep for most of Saturday night. On Sunday morning, I called the attorney's office and left a voicemail identifying myself as Dolores Whitfield's eldest child and stating clearly that I would be attending Monday's meeting. I kept the message brief and professional. I gave my full name. I gave my phone number. I said I looked forward to speaking with them. Then I called my Aunt Linda. She picked up on the second ring, and the moment she heard my voice, she started crying. "Oh, Nora," she said. "Oh, honey. Tell me what happened," I said. She cried for a little while first, the helpless, apologetic crying of someone who knows they did wrong and is hoping the crying will serve as partial payment. I let her cry. I didn't say anything cruel. I just waited. What she told me eventually, piecing it together through the tears and the pauses and the I didn't know what to do, I really didn't, was this. Mom had gone into the hospital in early February. A heart issue that everyone had known about but apparently not discussed with me. She'd been admitted twice before March, the second time more serious than the first. She'd been moved to a care facility in the last 2 weeks of her life. During those 2 weeks, Pamela had been the one making decisions. She had medical power of attorney, something I had not known, something that had apparently been arranged some years ago without my knowledge. She had been the point of contact for doctors, for nurses, for family members who called to ask about Dolores. "Did she ask about me?" I said. "In those last weeks, did she ask where I was?" Linda was quiet for a moment. "She asked Pamela to reach out to you," she said finally. "In the last few days, she said she wanted to talk to you." I closed my eyes. "And Pamela didn't." "I don't know what Pamela told her," Linda said. "I don't know if she said she'd tried and couldn't reach you, or if she just, I don't know, Nora. I wasn't there for all of it. But you knew I hadn't been called." A long pause. "Yes, and you didn't call me either." I thought Pamela had handled it. And then when I realized she hadn't, the funeral was already planned and I didn't know how to, she stopped. "I'm sorry, Nora. I know that's not enough. I'm so sorry." I thanked her. I meant it partially. Then I hung up and sat very still for a while, processing the specific and particular cruelty of what I had just learned. My mother in her last days had asked to speak to me, had asked for me. And that request had been quietly set aside by the person who held the power to act on it. I spent Sunday driving to a department store and buying a black blazer. I hadn't packed for a funeral, obviously. I hadn't packed for any of this. I stood in the dressing room in a too bright fluorescent light and put on the blazer and looked at myself in the mirror for a long moment, and I thought, okay, just that. Okay. Monday morning, I arrived at the attorney's office at 8:47, 13 minutes before the 10 o'clock appointment time. The office was in a low brick building near the edge of town, the kind of building that has a law office on one side and an insurance agency on the other, and a struggling sandwich shop in between. The receptionist looked up when I came in. "I'm Nora Whitfield," I said. "I'm here for the Dolores Whitfield estate meeting." She checked her list. Her expression did something small and careful. "Of course," she said. "I'll let Mr. Haynes know you're here. The others haven't arrived yet." I sat in one of the waiting room chairs and folded my hands in my lap and watched the door. Derek came in at 9:55 with Terry. He saw me and stopped walking, just stopped mid-step like someone had pressed pause on him. Terry grabbed his arm. He recovered quickly, came over, sat down across from me. He didn't hug me. He said, "Hey, Nora," in the same careful voice he'd used on the phone Friday. "Hey, Derek," I said. "Pamela arrived at 9:58 with Marcus. She walked in already talking mid-sentence to her husband about parking, and then she turned toward the waiting room and saw me, and her sentence just ended, like a song cut off before the last note. She stared at me. I looked back at her. I did not smile. "Nora," she said. Her voice was flat, controlled. "Pamela," I said. She sat down across the room. She did not look at me again. She pulled out her phone and held it like a shield. We sat in that waiting room, the four of us plus Marcus, for 2 minutes of the most loaded silence I have ever been in. The receptionist's keyboard was the only sound. The overhead light hummed. At 10 o'clock exactly, a man in his 50s with reading glasses pushed up on his head came out of the back hallway and looked at the assembled group. "Whitfield family?" he said. "Yes," Pamela said immediately, already standing. "I'm Pamela Whitfield Green. I've been the primary contact." "Wonderful," said Mr. Haynes pleasantly. He looked around the room. "And is the eldest child present? The will specifies several conditions that require the eldest child to be present at the reading." Complete silence. Pamela's face did something complicated. Derek looked at the floor. "I'm the eldest child," I said and stood up. "I'm Nora Whitfield." Mr. Haynes looked at me, then at Pamela, then back at me with the calm, practiced expression of a man who had seen exactly this kind of thing before and was entirely unsurprised by it. "Ms. Whitfield," he said, and extended his hand to me. "Right this way." I picked up my bag. I walked past Pamela without looking at her. I didn't have to look at her. I could feel her staring. Inside the conference room, we arranged ourselves around an oval table, Derek and Terry on one side, Pamela and Marcus on the other, me at one end, Mr. Haynes at the head. There was a pitcher of water in the center of the table. Nobody poured any. Mr. Haynes opened a folder. He put on his reading glasses. He cleared his throat in the way that attorneys clear their throats before they say something that will change the temperature of the room. "Before we begin," he said, "I want to note for the record that I did receive a voicemail yesterday from Ms. Nora Whitfield, confirming her attendance today. I also want to note that my office reached out to the contact number on file for this estate, which was listed as Pamela Whitfield Green, on 3 separate occasions this past week to confirm all beneficiaries had been notified. We were assured each time that all relevant parties had been contacted." He looked over his glasses at Pamela. Just briefly. Then he looked back down at the folder. Pamela said nothing. "Shall we begin?" said Mr. Haynes. Mr. Haynes read through the standard preliminary language, the date of the will, the identification of the testator, the confirmation of Dolar's me Whitfield's sound mind at the time of signing. His voice was even and unhurried, and every second of it felt like the tension before a thunderstorm. Then he got to the actual content. "My mother's house, the house she'd lived in for 31 years, the one with the wicker chair on the back porch and the green kitchen tiles she'd always meant to replace, and the bedroom where she'd told me to give everyone space, was to be sold. The proceeds after expenses were to be divided among her 3 children. Equal thirds." Pamela shifted in her seat. I saw it from the corner of my eye. Then Mr. Haynes said, "There is, however, a secondary provision." He paused in the way that people with information pause when they know the information is significant. "Mrs. Whitfield maintained a separate account," he said, "established approximately 6 years ago. This account was not disclosed to any family members during her lifetime, per her explicit instructions. The balance of this account," he said a number, "is to be transferred in full to Nora Ann Whitfield, the eldest child, upon the condition that she is present at this reading." The number he said was not a small number. The silence that followed was the kind that has physical weight. I could feel it pressing against my chest. I stared at the table. The wood grain was light oak. There was a small scratch near the edge, like someone had dragged a ring across it. "That can't be right," Pamela said. Her voice was tight and very controlled. "That account," she never mentioned anything like that. "The account was established and maintained specifically without disclosure," Mr. Haynes said mildly. Mrs. Whitfield was very clear in her instructions. 6 years ago, Pamela said. "That was she didn't even have that kind of money 6 years ago." "I'm not at liberty to discuss the source of the funds in detail," Mr. Haynes said, "but I can tell you that the account was built over time and that the assets are entirely legitimate." "And it all goes to Nora?" Derek said. It wasn't hostile. He just sounded stunned. "In full," said Mr. Haynes. "Contingent on her presence at this reading, which, given the circumstances, was specifically included as a condition." He looked at me when he said "given the circumstances." I don't know if anyone else caught it. I caught it. My mother had known. She had suspected, or perhaps she had known outright, that there was a possibility I wouldn't be told. That there was a possibility her death would be managed in a way that kept me at the margins, the way I had always been kept at the margins. And so she had built in a condition. She had made my presence matter in the most concrete way she could think of. She had made sure that if they tried to leave me out, they would pay for it. I don't know when she wrote that provision. I don't know if she wrote it in her final weeks, or years ago, or somewhere in between. I don't know if she was trying to right a specific wrong she knew was coming or a general pattern she'd watched build for decades. I don't know if she felt guilty or loving or both, but she had done it. My stubborn, complicated, imperfect, impossible mother had done it. I became aware that my hands were shaking. I pressed them flat against the table. "Are there any questions about this provision?" Mr. Haynes asked. Pamela opened her mouth. "From the beneficiaries," Mr. Haynes added, in a tone that was completely polite and completely final. Pamela closed her mouth. Marcus put his hand on her arm. She shook it off. "Nora," Derek said. He was looking at me now, not the table. His eyes were red. He looked like the soft kid he used to be, the boy who cried at movies and got angry at himself for it. "I'm sorry. I should have called you. I should have." "Not here, Derek," I said quietly, not harshly. "Just not here, not in front of an attorney with a folder, not with Pamela sitting 6 feet away with her jaw tight and her eyes somewhere between fury and calculation." He nodded. He looked back down at the table. Mr. Haynes walked us through the remaining details. There were a few small bequests: jewelry to Linda, the wicker chair ironically to Pamela, a set of old cookbooks to Derek. Practical, specific, considered. The kind of will that a woman writes when she has thought carefully about what she wants to leave behind and for whom. When it was done, Mr. Haynes collected his papers and shook my hand and told me his office would be in touch within the week to begin the transfer process. I thanked him. I meant it entirely. I walked out of the conference room and through the waiting room and out the front door into the cold March air, and I stood on the sidewalk outside a law office next to a struggling sandwich shop, and I finally let myself cry. Not because of the money. The money was, I don't even have the language for what the money was. Surreal. Secondary. I cried because my mother had thought of me. In the end, she had thought of me. Pamela found me outside. I had about 90 seconds of crying before I heard the door open behind me, and I knew from the sound of the heels on the pavement that it was her. "Nora!" I turned around. I had tears on my face. I didn't wipe them. I just looked at her. She looked, I want to describe this accurately, because I've replayed this moment so many times. She looked like someone who had prepared an argument and was holding it ready, but something in my face was making her recalibrate. She looked like she hadn't expected me to be standing there crying. She'd expected something else. Anger, maybe, confrontation, something she could push back against. She wasn't prepared for someone who was just grief-stricken. "That account," she started. "Mom's account, I don't think she understood what she was signing. Toward the end her mind was, don't," I said. "I'm just saying that a provision like that, written to exclude, Pamela." My voice was quiet. Steady again, the way it always gets when I need it most. "She didn't exclude anyone. She included me. That's what you're actually upset about." Her jaw tightened. "You didn't tell me she died," I said. "You had medical power of attorney, and she asked to speak to me in her final days, and you didn't make that call. You didn't tell me she was even in the hospital. You planned a funeral and buried our mother, and you didn't call me. You weren't part of this family anymore," she said. Her voice cracked on it slightly. "You left. You were always leaving. You were never there." "I was 4 hours away, Pamela, not another country, 4 hours. It's not about miles," she said. Her eyes were bright now. "You made Mom feel like she wasn't enough for you, like we weren't enough. Like your big life somewhere else was the only thing that mattered, and we were just the place you came back to when it was convenient." I looked at her for a long moment. At the sister I had known my entire life, who I had shared a childhood and a mother and a history with, who had just said out loud what I think she had believed for years. "Is that actually what you think?" I said. "Or is that the story you told yourself so it felt okay to do what you did?" She didn't answer. "I'm not going to fight with you," I said. "Not today, not outside a lawyer's office, not with Mom just buried." I picked up my bag from where I'd set it on the railing. "But I need you to understand something," I said. "Mom asked for me. At the end, she wanted to talk to me, and you took that from both of us. Whatever she wanted to say, she never got to say it, and I never got to say anything to her. And that is the thing I will spend the rest of my life trying to make peace with." I looked at her one more time. She was crying now too. I don't know if it was guilt or anger or grief or some braided combination of all three. I hope you find a way to make peace with your part in it, I said, and then I walked to my car, and I drove away. I didn't look in the rearview mirror. The weeks after that Monday were not easy. I want to be honest about that, because sometimes these stories end with the satisfying click of everything falling into place, and I don't want to give you that if it isn't true. The money came through. The process took about 3 weeks, and Mr. Haynes's office was thorough and kind and professional. And when the transfer landed in my account, I sat with it for a long time without knowing quite how to feel. My mother had saved that money over years, quietly and without telling anyone, including me. I have my theories about why guilt, love, awareness of a pattern she couldn't quite break while she was alive. Maybe all of it, maybe none of it. I will never know for certain, and I've had to make a kind of peace with that. Derek called me 6 weeks later. He asked if we could talk. We talked for 2 hours, a real conversation, the first real one we'd had in years. He told me things he'd been holding onto for a long time. I told him things too. It wasn't easy and it wasn't a clean resolution, and we're not the blanket fort kids we used to be, but we're something. We're trying. Pamela did not call. I don't know if she ever will. Some part of me still expects it, the part that believes people are capable of the hard thing when it matters. Maybe she'll prove that part right someday. Maybe she won't. I've stopped waiting. I went back to the cemetery once more in May when the weather had turned warm. I brought flowers that time, the wildflowers she used to keep in a mason jar on the kitchen windowsill because she liked things that looked like they'd chosen to grow where they were. I sat next to her grave for a long time. I told her about the money, what I was planning to do with some of it. I told her I forgave her for the things that needed forgiving. I told her I knew she thought of me. I don't know if she heard me. I still don't know if I believe in that, but I said it anyway. If you're still here, thank you. Genuinely. This one took a lot to put into words, and the fact that you stayed with it means more than I know how to say. I've thought a lot about what the lesson of this story is, and I keep coming back to the same thing. It's not about the money. It never was. The money is just the concrete version of something my mother was trying to say, that I mattered, that she saw me, that even at the end, even after years of distance and silence and holidays I wasn't invited to, she had not forgotten who I was. Sometimes love looks like a secret bank account and a clause in a legal document that says make sure she's in the room. It's not the love story I would have chosen. It's not the phone call I deserved, or the conversation we should have had, or the goodbye I'll never get to have. But it's what I have, and I've chosen to hold it. If you've ever felt like the person your family keeps at arm's length, if you've ever been the one they call last, or forget to call at all, I want you to know something. You are not invisible, even when it feels that way. Even when you have to find out from a Facebook post, you are not invisible. Leave me a comment below and tell me, have you ever felt left out by the people who were supposed to be your family? I want to hear your story. And if this one moved you at all, please subscribe. There's more truth coming. I'll see you in the next one.